And there we have it, folks. It is again time for the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. We're going to kind of kick it off as we always do. I'm just going to shout out our little disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the purchase or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Let me kind of copy that here real quick. Thank you all for joining us. Vaughn, how are you tonight?
Oh, I am feeling excellent. I'm feeling great. I am feeling awesome. I got so much done today. Was so productive. So I am after cannabis conversations, I'm gonna watch my favorite YouTuber and then I'm just gonna chill out. What about you, Scott?
I generally go right to chilling.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have learned over doing this for a couple of years, I now record Jeopardy, which runs from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, and I miss it every Wednesday night. And as much as I love you all and I love the conversation, I like to kind of keep up with Jeopardy. It's test my knowledge a little bit, and
Nothing wrong with that.
so now we record it, which is great. I don't have to watch the commercials anymore. But yeah, we'll be doing some chilling afterwards for sure.
Jeopardy is dope though. I like Jeopardy. It makes you feel smart, especially if you know the answers. If you don't know the answers, I don't know what to I don't know what to
Some
tell
days
you.
I feel smarter than others for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
other days I'm like, I feel brain dead.
Yeah.
And, and of course, watching some of those champions, uh, I feel like an idiot. It's like, how did they know that?
How do they know? How do they
all,
know
how
these
can they
things?
possibly know all that stuff? Yeah.
Shout out to all of our listeners and viewers right now. Anya Richards. Yay, it's time for chilling with my normal friends. I don't know how normal we
Yeah.
are, but yeah.
We try our
Yes.
best.
We do our best. Thank you so much for being with us. Skeptic Taps. What's up? Greetings, greetings. Thank you so much. Skeptic on the check-in. Thank y'all so much for being here. We love speaking with y'all. We love chopping up with y'all every Wednesday. And thanks so much for, supporting us during the new format because we're enjoying it. We're having a lot of fun and we hope that you are too. So without further ado, let's get right into it because I got some interesting headlines. All right, so let's go straight into the news. First thing up is that Vermont. I just removed the screen. There we go. Vermont started adult use cannabis sales, which is snaps for Vermont because that's a pretty big deal, right? They've been waiting for a little minute to do this, and usually I save this. My whole goal for the news element of this was to kind of tell you things that are going on in South Carolina, and though these two headlines that I have are not going to be about uh, South Carolina per se. They do mention South Carolina, which I say still counts. And especially in this particular article, because as they talk about this particular publication talks about what's going on in Vermont and how people were at the doors of Cirrus Collaborative on College Street at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, ready for the drop, ready for the herb. They mention first and last name of a South Carolinian who actually was in the number and came through to get that legal bud. So the reason why I think this is hilarious, one, big ups to that person because you shout out to you for traveling because you can't do it here in South Carolina. South Carolina's not giving you, but also shame on you, South Carolina, that your citizen had to go all the way up to Vermont so that they could get some legal bud. There's some other places they could have went along the way, sure, but at the end of the day, like if you're willing to travel to get some bud, I think it's safe to say you want it legal in your state. So that's just something for us to think about. And I also have this article up here too, and I'll drop the link in the chat for you guys. It's a really cool read, and it's something that I think is beneficial for us as we're trying to push for legalization within our state and just reading about these different openings and things like that in states that are starting adult use cannabis. This line was very interesting to me, and it reminded me a little bit of Scott's comment last week about the black market, like the underground of cannabis. And this particular person said, I'm gonna read this paragraph. Brandon Corbin of St. Albans stood in that line and came out of the store with a packet containing an eighth of an ounce of marijuana. The same amount I got in trouble for when I was 18, he said. He's not sure, you're going to love this, Scott. He's not sure if he'll go back to a retail shop for his next purchase. The $70 price tag was about double what Coburn said he'd pay normally, but Saturday's purchase felt like vindication for his 18-year-old self. I had to do it once, he said, of his legal retail excursion. I thought that was hilarious. Go ahead, Scott.
I must admit, I feel the same way. I have not yet been to a dispensary. I have not
Yeah.
yet taken the time. I traveled through and to a medically legal state not too long ago, but
Yeah.
my agenda just did not give me time to even stop in a shop or to cross the border over into New Jersey at the time to check out one of theirs. And so I still haven't been to one. And so for the novelty of it, I would love to visit. I would be a perfect cannabis tourist to go to a legal state. Of course, I'm open to suggestions on who thinks what state is the best one to visit.
Yeah.
Let me know. Drop it in the comments there if you think there's a better state than another state to go and visit. And did New York start their program yet? I know
So
somebody was talking.
I don't think New York has. And if you're listening, let us know. But I don't think they officially have, but I know people are definitely starting to sell. And shout out real quick to the Hemp Lord. What's up? The Hemp Lord in the building.
There we go.
All right. And yeah, $70 for the eighth. You seen it.
Yeah. So, and the other comment that he made about not sure if he'd go back to a retail establishment. Again, that's one of the conversations that we have here a lot. The
Yeah.
retail establishment gives you access to regulated cannabis, and you can then know for certain through their certificate of authenticity and
Right.
that type of thing what you're getting, what the quality of it may be, how it tests for any potential pesticides or things like that. Of course, they would pull it if it did, but it gives you that kind of access. Now,
Yeah.
on the other side, many of us probably know somebody who has access from very possibly a legal state, and they're just bringing in black market, and it's still good quality, and it is half the price or less.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I'm that stingy guy. I'd be the guy buying like dollar store weed.
I'm the stingy guy. $70. I'm curious too about and shout out Anya. Please make sure I'm saying this right, but it's
I
all
know, I
love.
believe. I know.
Virginia Anya
I know.
Virginia is close to South Carolina. That's right. That's true. Virginia is closer. That's a closer hop skip. I've been to Boston actually with and stood outside the line of a dispensary, which was actually pretty cool. This is also kind of in the heart of kind of COVID time, so you wasn't really going inside, but it was still a cool experience nonetheless. Skeptic 70 for the eighth, terrible. I wonder what strain it was. Why couldn't they tell us what strain? I wonder what kind of like
That would be
was
kind
this
of
some
nice.
like
Is it $70 for
Zaza?
mids?
Like
Is it $70 for top shot?
yeah, like
Uh,
what? I mean, what was it? Was it I would be curious because see that's kind of what's exciting to me as well. Like
well,
all the
and that's
different
probably
strains.
still what keeps markets like the California black market going, is
Mm,
the price differentiation. You don't have regulation upon regulation upon regulation sort of burdening with you and costing your company more money to eventually produce the product. Um, but on the other side of it comes that again surety that things have been tested and regulated, and so it's a
and
mixed
taxes
bag.
too potentially and taxes. I think that's another thing too. Like if this is taxed and you're trying to account for taxes.
Yes.
I think, and that's another reason to be in the conversation about legalization, so that
Yeah, because
you
the
can have
taxation
a
can be pretty extreme in some states for
yeah
recreational.
yeah. So that's something to think about too when we're talking about legalization. Like we want to think about the whole gambit. Like that's the reason why I think it's important to to read about these kinds of things and to absorb these things, because we have to take this into account. Like, we've got to take this into account. Well, we got skeptic with those prices. Even with legalization, the black market will thrive for sure. I mean, the underground's not going anywhere. It, I think that. I think that it's still, especially with the way that the industry is right now in terms of the law, like, it's not federally legal, and there's still going to be that outlet there. And people are the what's interesting, I think, about legalization is that you already have a segment of a target demographic that is already used to buying, you know, and
You
they're
got
already
that
used to buying certain prices.
$1.1 billion in South Carolina per
Right,
year in projected illegal sales.
right.
You know, I mean, of course, there's no receipts to prove any of what it is, but those are the projected numbers. Um, and imagine how many people are actually leaving the state and doing, the cannabis tourism and bringing things back with them. How much is being shipped back in? Um, so yes, it's a big market.
Yeah. Here's another thing I think about too is that why is it that there's always a focus on dispensaries, which I think is cool, but I also think there's just not enough conversation about, like, what about the guy or gal that don't want a dispensary? Maybe they just want to be a broker. Maybe they just want to be kind of that, like, maybe they want to be that what was the phrase they used to say? Street pharmacist. Maybe they just want to be that, like, individual doing their own thing, that freelancer of cannabis. Like, why can't they still be that? Like, I think if they still have all the knowledge that they need, like all the COAs, all the stuff, like, I mean, why not encourage that element as well? Like, I think there's space for that as well.
What I'd like to see, or what I would love to see, I guess, is that driving down a country road, seeing a little farm stand on the side of the road and going, oh, let's pull over and see what's at the farm stand, and having it be a cannabis farm stand.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. Hot dog. For real.
Man,
For real.
hopefully the next one has some munchies to freaking make up for the farm, for the cannabis stand. But then
But
we'll
for
get the
real.
apples and things like that down there.
The apple, the orchard. The orchard.
Then we'll go
Um,
to the orchard, get something to eat after we get the But
for
I can see
sure.
that. Mom and pop grows, that craft brewing type model of cannabis
Yep.
growing,
Boutique.
where
Boutique.
there is there's like a small cannabis farm, small mom and pop cannabis farm. Yes, they're tested, they're regulated, they're you're getting good quality product, but it's product grown right there on that property. Like I say, sold at a roadside stand kind of market. That would be
Yeah.
just freaking that
I
would
think
be
that'd
my
be
dream.
that's a great idea, and I think that diversity, that level of diversity, is something that I think is necessary within when we talk about, like, kind of the economics of it all. Because I'm looking at it, from the point of, I could work if I'm in marketing, and I know these aren't the same industries, but to level set, like, if I'm in marketing, I could work for an agency, or I could also work for myself. And so what is there's diversity within that realm. I think there should be able to be diversity within the realm of cannabis as well. So those are conversations that are worth having, especially when we're talking about legalization. Like, we got to think about all those things.
I do want to
Uh
bump you up to our next little topic in the news because we are sort
yeah.
of rambling past it.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so the next, I think this is super. Like, I thought this was so interesting. I've got a family full of just military folks, so I grew up all, like, military kid. I was the only one that didn't go into the military, but this right here, U.S. military softens ban on recruits who test positive for THC. Holy cheese and crackers, y'all! This is intense. Okay, this is intense. So, the military was very much known for having, like, zero tolerance, right? You test for anything, like, you trying to get into the military, you test anything, you pop hot for anything, it's a no go. Well, in today's times, it ain't so like that. So there's certain prospects that are able to have, and I'm not sure what the requirements are for that, but there's certain prospects that can have, like, a waiver and retest in 90 days if they pop hot for marijuana.
And
Y'all.
90 days should give you all enough time to clean out. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that is amazing to
a
me.
lot of
Like,
stories say 30 to 45 days. Personal
hmm,
experience tells me a little bit longer, depending on my
right,
usage. And so that 90 days, yeah, should give you plenty
yeah,
of time to clear your system and retest. But pretty amazing that the military is doing that.
absolutely. The Air Force. Oh, which is even more interesting because this is the Air Force, right? So they've got a on September 24th, the Air Force, Space Force, Air Force Reserve, and Air National Guard announced a 2-year pilot program that will allow some applicants who test positive for THC to retest after 90 days. The waiver is effective immediately and is only available to high performing recruits. Okay, so there you go. That's the requirement. You got to be a high performing recruit, whatever that means. And the criteria, there you go, includes a score of 50 or
High
above.
performing?
Yeah.
Come
Yeah,
on.
there we
they're all high performing apparently.
they're pilots high in the sky. These are all these things. Military missed recruiting prospects by 10,000. Yeah, yeah, that is wild stuff. So that matter of fact, that's what I'm going to kind of scroll down to, is that Army enlistment fell 25% short of the recruitment goal this year. And officials announced that last week. So all branches of service are scrambling to fill in the gap of young people who are willing and fit to enlist. So check this out. Even more interesting is that 50% of applicants were coming from states where marijuana is legal. So what are you going to do? You going to turn around? Like, you already need people, and what this is showing you, the reason why this is so interesting to me is because we're still not federally legal. And yet the military, a federal entity,
The largest chunk of our federal government's budget.
is softening, is being more lenient. That's a big deal. Like that's a big deal, you guys. Like I personally think that that's a huge deal, and that's something that should be paid close attention to, because it shows you something, especially when you're in a space of like people that are losing their jobs because they popped hot for cannabis, and yet the military is letting them come back and retest after 90 days. High performing. Let me go ahead and put skeptic on here. High performing, like there's something here. All right, let's see. Comments are going off with this one. Yes, laughter all the way around. I mean, this is a good thing. A decrease in soldiers is a win for humanity. It's a conversation for another day, but that is an argument, a point from a lot of people for sure. Joey's back. What up, fam? What up, Joey? In my
Hey,
opinion,
Joey's
yeah,
on.
no
All
problem,
right, my
skeptic.
friend.
Yeah, no, but I mean that is another conversation. That is another conversation, by the way. But yeah, I wanted to bring this to light, especially because there's so much, knowing a lot of people in the military or even like veterans as well, but like people who really could be benefiting from cannabis, and how strict, like I remember there was correspondence that went out to military folks that was like, you can't even use CBD cream, CBD, nothing CBD, nothing, even things that were federally legal, hemp, you can't use any of it. Like you're not allowed to use any of it if you test positive, boom, boom, boom. So to see this leniency right here within the Air Force, some people have their own thoughts process about the different military branches and all that other kind of stuff. It's all military, baby. Okay. And so to see this element right here is a huge step. And cannabis helps with air sickness. There you go. It's all connecting. It's
There
all
you
coming
go.
together. I wonder, my last kind of notes on this would be, I wonder if, like, if you ended up testing positive and then you retest it, I wonder if they would be more strict on you, like testing you more. Like that's
Oh,
a thought.
like additional random testings after the fact. That's a
Yeah.
good possibility. And I really wish, and I'm guessing he's not following our podcast tonight. our friend Michael Harvey from the American Cannabis
I thought
Nurses
about Michael. Yep.
Association, um, who is no longer in the military because he had used CBD cannabis and had no leniency and had been I
Right.
want to say a career military person.
Right.
I may not be quite accurate on that, but had definitely put in his time. I believe he had a pretty high rank, and all because he used cannabis products. Um, that
Right.
changed the trajectory of his life, of his
Absolutely.
employment. And so I would really love to hear his take on this particular news story as well.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him on. I know he's been on a couple of cannabis conversations before, but he's always got a good. His perspective is always interesting, and if you haven't heard him talk about it, like it's definitely always worth like listening to. So I would be curious to hear what he's got to say here. And moving on, Croptober. What's up, y'all? It's October. Can you believe it? It is October. I cannot believe that at all. Actually, um, my anxiety would set in, but you know what? I'm not gonna let that happen. I'm like, oh my god, we're already closing in. But Croptober is something that is uh, a terminology that's used a lot within the cannabis industry, and I wanted to take a moment to kind of talk about what that is. Real quick before we go in, I gotta shout out Joey real quick. He said, "You better believe they would test you again. Testing positive will put a target on your back in the military." Yeah, that would
Yeah.
really be interesting. I'm telling you, that would be, and that ain't gonna be data you gonna get to see. I'm tell you, you won't, that ain't no data they're gonna put out in public. Okay, Croptober. Yes, that's right, skeptic. Harvest season. So when it comes to the crop, when it comes to outdoor uh, cannabis, September, October, November, these months right here are kind of considered to be that kind of harvest season, Croptober. A lot of people kind of liken that to October. But I think what's interesting to know about this, so just in case you haven't known this, the reason why I think this is important for us to kind of think about and just to kind of have on our radar is that when it does come to the type of flower that you're getting or buying, even if it's like hemp flower, right? Like that's what we can get here in South Carolina, but like this kind of stuff matters. And like, what does this mean for our agricultural economics? Like, how does this help or hurt us? Because there also is this element of indoor, right? Indoor, like if you've got a greenhouse or you've got indoor herb, like you don't necessarily have to wait till that Croptober season in order to harvest. So there's a variety of things that could be going on, and I wonder sometimes how the actual what is it? How the actual how that would affect us economically. Say we were legal, right? And then you had a group that was indoor, you had a group that was outdoor. Does outdoor end up not getting a fair shake? Or maybe people prefer that taste or that experience of outdoor more? Like it kind of reminds me a lot of the food and bev scene, to be honest with you. We got Joey out here that says sun grown over indoor. Oh, that's interesting. Joey, expound upon that, like why you feel that way. But yeah, Croptober. So I want you to know that it says about 80 to 85% of cannabis are ready to harvest during the traditional October cycle. Once harvested, this cannabis is ready to be dried, cured, and sold and processed. I can also speak from personal experience of flower that I have seen during these times, like farmers that I've talked to that are in like Oregon and things of that nature, where this is what they do. They wait for this time. They tell their clients, "Hey, look, we've got a harvest coming up," and this is what they're banking on. They're banking on that harvest being beautiful and acceptable and just immaculate. And that's always interesting to me in general with agriculture, because I feel like that is such a stressful thing. Shout out to all the farmers everywhere, because my God, like hoping that your crop is good to go, it has got to be a pretty stressful thing.
I'm going to go right back to where I was earlier when we were talking about legalization and those roadside stands. Could
Yeah.
you imagine harvest season being sort of like, if you're from the Northeast, especially, or know that area with the fall colors, and people will travel just to see the fall
Yeah.
colors in certain state. Could you
Yeah.
imagine that sort of, and it flows because of course the temperatures change along the the range for a while. That would also happen with cannabis, where your
Yeah.
harvest would be somewhat staggered, and you could almost do like a wine trail, except a cannabis harvest trail tour. Oh man, I'd be all over that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, that's a really good point. Like, what's it called, man? Agritourism.
Agritourism, yeah,
Yeah,
cannabis tourism.
for sure,
Um,
for sure. Hemp Lord says, I think rural areas like Humboldt County once depended on Croptober for economics. Yeah, I agree, and I wonder how much of that, like I think another thing of a Croptober is like I wonder how many of the like legal states that have been legal for a while, and maybe someone else who's maybe well versed in this could talk about this, but I wonder how much outdoor is really grown. Like I wonder what the ratio is from indoor to outdoor, like which one is more dominant in states that have been legal longer. Because I know a lot of times, like, or at least some stories I've heard from some farmers that are in like the hemp program here in South Carolina, how they've just kind of struggled sometimes to just get the crop just right. Now that could be, there could be a variety of reasons why that may be, but I wonder, it can be risky. Like it can be risky because then if it doesn't go the way that you want it to go, like, that's what you're banking on making your money from. Skeptic says indoor can generally be better, but it all depends on several factors: cultivator, grower, etc. Definitely can get great outdoor, but I'm an indoor lover for sure. I've seen some amazing outdoor bud, and I 100% feel like it is it matters too, just kind of the care. Like this might be a little, I don't know, esoteric or something, but I mean it does care. No, actually no, this is for real. Like it matters how much care you're putting into that product, how much care you're putting into the growing, all of those elements, like, and just it's a serious thing, like you gotta be about that thing. um there you go.
Grow that shit in South Carolina.
Hey, for real, for real,
I had to go there. I
for
had
real,
to go there.
for real. Scott, that was hilarious. But for real, I mean, he's got a point, right? He's got a point. A cannabis maze, yes, Anya, for real. Like that would be cool. I mean, I think this
Cannabis
stuff is
maze,
cool.
like a
you
corn
know,
maze. Yeah,
and
I can.
then Croptober, you've got like the spooky season, all of that. Like, why not? Like I think there is definitely a vein for that. Hemp Lord says outdoors still plentiful. Okay, good to know. And then Tota's good point. Thank you. Joey, let's see what Joey got to say. All right, so he's talking about the outdoor. I think the natural process growing with the sun adds something artificial light can't provide. Now, I understand indoor can grow amazing plants, but to me, outdoor just hits different. I'd have to agree with that. Growing indoors will help you make money because you can always have a crop ready for harvest. Right, exactly. Though another interesting thing about this article, which I think we already dropped that in the chat, but another interesting thing about this article was how during Croptober, indoor people who sell indoor normally have to reduce their prices because then there's this influx that comes into the economy of all of this, competitive bud. So they do end up being in a place where they have to mitigate any losses they may have because now they've got outdoor bud, which normally and I think Hemp Lord's in the chat, so he can gut check me here. But normally you'll find that a lot of indoor may charge more than outdoor, and that's pretty interesting. That even though on a regular basis they might be charging more than an outdoor, like you get a pound or whatever it may be, it costs more for indoor. It's kind of interesting that they still feel like they have to, in order to be competitive, they got to bow down to the outdoor because clearly that says something in itself, that outdoor is still strong enough and still something, just kind of speaking to Joey, how clearly there is a market for it. There are people who like it, and we'll be in a space, we'll be in an economic space where it's like there's people who want to go for indoor and they'll love indoor, but there might be some people, you're like, no, I'll wait for the drop, and I'll be ready to spend my money. I'll wait for that good drop. So very dope, very dope. Hemp Lord said, "Great idea." I think he was talking about the cannabis maze. I think he was talking about the agritourism element to that. Skeptic, definitely not in the black market. Indoor will go for much less. Interesting. I feel like I've seen some different things, but as Scott is like my when they play the music when you're talking too much for the award, like this Scott is that for me, and I appreciate that so much.
Segue time.
Oh,
Segue.
he meant to say outdoor. Okay, I see. All right, yeah, segue time. Now let's get into some more of the meat. I feel like that was the potatoes. Now I'm going to get into the meat of what was going of what we're talking about today. So, um, let's talk about a pot that. Thank you so much. Revisiting the Compassionate Care Act. Okay, the reason why I wanted to do this today is because we talked a little bit last week, and I think even the first week we kind of touched on, the politicians within South Carolina, like who voted for this, who didn't vote for it, and I think it's important for us to kind of I'll put that list up there about who voted, like which of our state senators said yay or nay, and then we'll also talk about the House representatives who voted yay or nay, but we'll also talk about kind of the technicality that came with the once this bill hit the House. But first and foremost, a point that I really want to drive home about this bill. There's a lot of points about it, but I'm going to open up with the fact that this bill did not support smokable herb, and I that is something that I think is when we say, and when it was in the headlines that it was like, yo, if this passes, this is going to be the most conservative bill or medical marijuana bill law out there. There's a lot of reasons why, but one reason for sure, because I saw a lot of people that did not know this. Like, it was not the same to say, yay, legalization. And I know that we here at NORML, we kind of, we really try to be strategic about what is going on in our state and things like that. But I do want to make sure that I level set with you as a citizen of South Carolina. This bill did not support you having smokable herb, okay? Or you really having marijuana at all, unless you were severely ill and ill to the standards of what it is that they're going to say. Scott, it looked like you were going to have a comment.
Me? Comment? Uh, yeah, the bill, even as it was directed, was not for the overall general good of the
Right.
population of South Carolina. It was going to be basically people who could afford it. So, poor people were going to be left out of the program again, as happens many times in this kind of thing. But yeah, and then of course, you're not going to be able to get the quality product you may want. Even
Right.
Senator Tom Davis has repeatedly said that he understands that the efficacy of smokable cannabis is much better, especially for patients like veterans with PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
But to appease, let me rephrase that, or no, say it again. Let me repeat that. Appease law enforcement
Right.
because of wanting to appease law enforcement. He's taken the smokable component out of his legislation, and moving, after the election, mind you, and we move into December and obviously into January. I don't think he will early announce again this year. I think he'll wait again until January 10th. But
Mm-hmm.
my understanding is that bill is going to come back almost identical to what it left as. Um, Now would be the time to contact your legislators,
Right.
especially if you are in Tom Davis's district, and ask him to, uh, you know, make that medical bill, more consumer friendly, more citizen friendly, um, allowing smokable, allowing home
Yeah.
grow, allowing access to real medicine. You know.
Absolutely. And this right here already touches on some things that already are a problem in South Carolina. Just when you think about healthcare in general, like what does this mean? Like, there's some insurance companies that are definitely not taking that are not going to still are not accepting cannabis as a treatment. So what does that mean? Who's going to be able to afford this? One, what's the price tag? Who's going to be able to afford it? Who is this for? And this part right here always concerns me too, to a degree, where, before certifying patients, physicians must conduct a thorough in-person evaluation, including a history of illness, past medical history, and alcohol and substance abuse history. I don't like that, because it has been proven time and time again of medical biases that still live within South Carolina and nationally. But when we talk about South Carolina, like, what the hope is that there won't be these medical biases. And then there was even one comment from one rep that was saying, well, I don't need to vote for this because it's not like this would be available to the rural areas that I service. So what does it matter? So we have to ask, who is this law for? Like, and I just and I this is a personal opinion. This is VP's personal opinion, is that I think that it's important to I don't want to just accept something just because it's cannabis. Now I'm telling y'all that this is VP. This is VP's own mind and brain. I do acknowledge a lot of things about like strategy, but I will tell you this. It really means a lot to me to at least try to make something and try to speak about something that I feel like would be way more inclusive. Like, does that always happen? I don't think it always happens, but I can tell you I am gonna try. I will say that.
All right, time for me to hijack your conversation
Get
just
in
a
there.
little bit.
Get in there.
Just a little bit. A couple things I want to point out, as I've pointed out already, but we are about a month away from the election date. General elections. These are elections for South Carolina House members predominantly.
Right.
There are some other races going on in there. One of them, Alan Wilson, as the state attorney general. I see him running sponsored ads on Facebook and stuff. I don't know why, because he's running unopposed, but apparently he has to spend his political donations anyway. I wish there was somebody running against him. There is not. But this is a race to watch, so don't forget to visit that Smoke the Vote guide, vote.normal.org. And click on the South Carolina tab. Go through there to your area, find out who your legislators are, and see what their position on marijuana is. Or not your legislators, all the candidates for that matter. Talking about candidates, one of the things that's going to be important is federal level races.
Yes.
And the one federal level race that I want to point out, I may have mentioned it here before, is for the South Carolina U.S. House District 4. That's federal level House District 4. That is William Timmons. William Timmons, I believe, has a D here in the state on our guide. There is a write-in vote, write-in candidate, Lee Turner, in that district. Again, U.S. House District 4 of South Carolina. Who, although she has not filled out her candidate questionnaire yet because I haven't asked her to, I know she will. I know she's pro-cannabis just from some conversations. If you're in U.S. House District 4, South Carolina, write in Lee Turner. That'd be my suggestion. That is not an official endorsement from from NORML, but just to let you know that that's that option. You have what would probably be A graded candidate versus a D graded candidate in Timmons. And I believe that information hit Ballottopia just in the past couple of days. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that there for the moment. But those are races to watch. Is your federal level as well. Again, I've mentioned it a number of times. I'm in U.S. House District 1. That's Nancy Mace's district. I don't mind Nancy Mace's State Reform Act. But there's other policies in Nancy's I don't necessarily agree with. Dr. Annie Andrews, who is running against her, is also pro-cannabis. I don't know if she's as enthusiastically pro-cannabis, but she is. She has completed our questionnaire. She has gotten a grade on the Smoke the Vote guide. So there are those races throughout the state to watch. Oh, one more I want to point out, because again, federal level, Tim Scott is running against Crystal Matthews. Again, when it comes down to cannabis policy, Crystal Matthews has, she's a senator, has voted for and spoken positively for cannabis law reform, for medical marijuana in the state. I would much rather see her voted into that federal position um, than having Tim Scott, who has not been a friend of cannabis all these years. So, all right, I'm going to back out and let Vaughn talk some more.
That was perfect, Scott. No, all of that was perfect, and that falls exactly in line with what what you see on the screen right now. This right here is a list of House representatives for South Carolina State House representatives, right? And I encourage you, I totally encourage you to, and I listen. I'm practicing what I'm preaching, y'all. I've got a list that's already started. I've started with the Senate actually. I kid you not. I'm all the way down to Michael W. Gambrell, but I have gone through from here and up. I've clicked every single one of these um, politicians, every single one of these legislatures, and have been reading about them and seeing what they've voted on, especially as it comes to cannabis, and some other things that I'm like, oh God, okay. But that's this is about cannabis. But I encourage you to do this. This is about us. The people that are in these offices are here to represent us. I don't care what they say. I don't care what the word is. They're supposed to be representing us. And one thing that's going to be advantageous for us, especially even with upcoming lobby days, is to just have information, and not just information just so that you can be mad about something, but information so that at least have an idea of what you're talking about. And also seeing some things like you'll be surprised. You might actually see something that you're like, oh, I didn't know this person was working on this or whatever it may be. So there's different ways to kind of start the conversation, I feel, about cannabis. And we can find that through figuring out, why are these people in office? What is their purpose? What are they doing here? Some people just don't want to give you time today, and that is life. But it is important for us to know who's representing us.
Right, and also on top of that, I do want to add, it's important for you to reach out and let your legislators know, the people who are
Facts.
supposed to be representing you, let them know, your position and what you want them to represent. As an organization, we try our best to reach out across the political lines and across the district lines and things like that. And there's oftentimes we'll get a response back saying that if we're not their specific constituent from their specific community, they're probably not going to respond to us.
Right.
That kind of thing. So it's very important that you reach out and contact your legislators directly and let them know that you support reforming marijuana laws, amongst other things, I'm sure.
And if you're not sure about how you can do that, the South Carolina state, South Carolina state, but the South Carolina's state scstatehouse.gov, you can contact your legislator by hitting that button, contact your legislator. This right here, I'm looking particularly at the members of the Senate. Find your senator, click on it, BIM, and once you click here, it's going to take you to where, boom, you fill all this out and leave your message in there.
Yep.
You can upload and
I've
attach
used that
and all
quite a
that.
bit for sending our questionnaire to sitting legislators that are candidates. Um, but yep, that's one thing that's available for everybody to use. And
Yeah.
I'll go back to something I've said in the past. I don't think I've used this line in a while, but you will probably get a better response from your legislator with a handwritten letter.
Facts. 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 Very good point, Scott. And that's even more of a reason why. And that's also another cool element too, especially when we do our next lobby day. That if you got a handwritten letter that you want us to
Deliver to
deliver,
your legislator.
we'll do that too. And that's something, we want your voice to be heard. Like that. I really, that's the thing about it, is that you making your voice heard about how you feel about cannabis in South Carolina. What you'll see up here now on the screen, we're at 7:45. Okay, we're not doing bad, Scott. Okay.
All right.
So what you see right here is the Senate roll call vote for the SC Compassionate Care Act. All right. This shows you who said yes and who said no. So screenshot this, whatever you may need to do. I can actually pop this in here as well.
This was second reading in the Senate or the House?
Senate.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
we had a good amount of yeses versus nays.
Right. And remember, this is after, this is after the tweaks and things of that nature as well. So, but eventually, this is where we were at, right? And it's interesting to see who still said no even after the tweaks. So that's something to think about. And even some of these people that I've researched, it's also interesting to see the other things that they support, because I personally was starting to see a pattern. But I'll let you decide.
Yes,
I'll let you
one of
decide.
those nays is my local senator as well. You've heard me uh, speak of her lovingly many times. But there were 28 that voted yes on
Right.
in the Senate.
And then I'll make sure I show you this. So this was for House, right? And what they were voting on, to be clear, is the table appeal of the ruling of the speaker. So I had to hop on the phone with Scott before I got on the show today, because it's easy. Personally, I'm not a politician, so there are things that I have to slow it down and kind of walk myself through, and it's just kind of for you to see how this bill stalled out. And a big part of why it stalled out, I actually have an article that does a good job of saying this, which is um, it was ruled unconstitutional by South Carolina's House of Representatives. So there was a constitutional challenge by a representative, and their argument was that the bill involves the creation of a new tax, specifically on medical cannabis. And it says that the bill should have originated in the House per the South Carolina Constitution. The House Speaker Pro Tem Thomas Pope agreed with Representative McCarvey's argument and ruled the bill unconstitutional. Then after that, there was an appeal, an attempt to appeal the ruling, but the House voted 59-55 to table the appeal, which stopped the bill in its tracks. Now that's what you see when you're looking at this right here. This is what they voted on.
The yays on here were to table.
Yes.
So these were the 59 that voted basically against moving the bill forward,
Right.
or because of that technicality. Although at the same time, the House version of the Compassionate Care Act, there was a House version of the Compassionate Care Act that did originate in the House, and the House chose to, at least the committee that it was in the House, chose to just not do anything, sit on their thumbs, as I said earlier, sit on their thumbs and do nothing to wait and see what happened with the senator's bill, because the
Right.
senator's bill they knew already had momentum behind it.
Absolutely. So that's that's something to think about right there. And it's when you look at this document, I just dropped that in the chat. So pay close attention to it's kind of in a way reverse of what the Senate roll call list was, um, where in this particular one, whoever voted nay was essentially saying no, let's keep this bill going. So that's for the House of Representatives. So take a look at that.
And now
Take a look
many
at
of these
that.
seats are up for election. So again, take a look at that. Those
Right.
yays, if they are your legislators, look to see if they have an opponent in this election,
That's right.
and see what that grade might be of that opponent. If that opponent does not have a grade yet, let us know. We will get our questionnaire out to them. We will contact them. But do what we can to vote out the anti-cannabis crew. We need to move them out. So look at that list.
Yes,
You shared a
for a
link for
fact.
that?
I did. I did. I've got a link for I shared both of them.
Okay, got it. I see.
Um but I'm probably going to post this to my socials as well, or something of that nature, because I'm probably going to show this again to you every single week until we
There we go. Keep
we're going
keep
to
showing
do
it to
that.
us until the elections at least.
That's right. As a matter of fact, what I'll do next time too, what I'll try to do, because NORML is a 100% volunteer opportunity, so we all have lives outside of this as well. But what I'm going to try my best to do is kind of see which offices are up and show you, kind of hopefully have some kind of something for you to reference, so that you at least know in terms of how they voted on cannabis. You will have that
We
in your
may be
pocket.
able to kind of scroll through the Smoke the Vote guide and reference it to
Yep.
this
Yep.
at the same time and see if we can pick out, are there good options to vote some of them out and somebody else in.
Yeah, for a
Cool.
fact. And with that, we're actually towards the end. Man, we are just rocking with the schedule.
We have been
Okay.
doing well with the scheduling. I think so, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So in these last 10 minutes or so, this is just once again a reminder that we've got some events coming up. We got some changes to our October event. Scott, do you want to speak to that a little bit, or just
Yes, yes, I will. We had talked about a couple of times here already a picnic coming up in October on the 22nd. Supposed to be scheduled at the uh, Wanamaker Park in North Charleston. Uh, we had shared a link out there, and I don't know how often I shared it, probably once. And the only person that had signed up to date was myself. Um, so I have canceled that event. And it wasn't because of lack of participation. It was mostly because we had another opportunity, and that is to participate in the Charleston Democratic Party's Blue Jamboree. Blue Jam. We've been at Blue Jam, I think, twice at least, if not three times in the past. I think last time was just pre-COVID, and happened to be a rain event. They had to switch locations. It was kind of funny. Kristen and I kind of squished in a little corner, our banner hanging at a 45-degree angle, almost folded in half, just because they didn't have enough room for all the vendors. And we're like, hey, we'll squeeze in. We'll, as long as we're here to represent, we can do it from a small space. But the other events were, and I don't know where this one is at. Let me go look at it real quick where it is. Have been up at I forget now, an outdoor venue. Let me go find this real quick. And again, not everybody may be thrilled that we're going to a Democratic Party event, but um, we see more support on that side of the aisle, and I think it's just a better opportunity for us to get in there and actual talk to legislators. Um,
yeah, I think I'll jump in to say too that I think a big advantage, or at least something that would be worth doing, is having conversations, seeing who we can have conversations with about just kind of because about bills and different bills that I feel like haven't really seen the light of day, like the decrim bill that at one point existed, that was completely supported by Democrats. And so a big, something that we like to do is just kind of be where the people are and figure out, in terms of like the people that are in these spaces and voting, and seeing like, hey, what's going to go on with this? I know I would like to know what's going on with this. Where will there be a Lazarus moment here? Are we gonna kind of resurrect this thing, or what's good with that?
why are they making it so hard for me to find the name of this venue on
Anya,
this
thank you
place?
so much. Y'all are rocking. Thanks for sharing. Woo! We are rocking. We are rocking. I'm gonna have to
Uh,
say yes to that. That we are.
all right, I'm not finding it. I'm going to just go ahead and share the main link here for y'all, and then you can kind of track it down a little bit more. Um, but I can't. I'm blanking on the name of the venue um, for the Blue Jam.
I
It
can't
is an
remember.
outdoor event.
Well, we're coming up on time, so I'm also going to say I'm going to jump ahead to say that the deadline to vote the deadline to register to vote,
The 8th.
is October 9th, so that you can vote on November 8th. Okay.
That's right.
So
That is the
please
ninth.
make sure October 9th, that is next week, y'all. So if you know someone who needs to register, get them. Get them in there. We need that.
And go to scvotes.org. scvotes.org or gov. Now I got to double check that.
Yeah, don't, because I didn't put that one on here.
scvotes.gov. Let me go ahead and share that link with you here.
Yes.
You can go there. You can register to vote, and then you don't have to do anything else except take your ID with you to the booths. Show your ID, because like I say, you can go online. You can register.
Yeah.
You can't really show them your ID online, but you just take it with them to the voting booth, and that way they know you are who you say you are. Also, and I'm going to put it out there for anybody interested, I've already done my sign up. I will be working the polls that day.
Woohoo!
Depending on what county you're in, the pay rate varies a little bit. I think Charleston County's upped it to $200 for the day. Now, mind you, it's about a 12-hour day, a little bit
It's
more.
intense. You're going to be working.
But yeah, you put in your time. It's not hard work, but you put in your time. But for me, it was two things. One, it was sort of that community involvement, and also a little bit of a transparency look inside the voting system. You know, especially after that 2020 election where people are talking about, oh, the elections are rigged. Oh, there's this. You know what? Sign up, become a poll manager, make your $200 or $145, depending what county you're in or some variation thereof. But spend the day working in the polls and see that that's the people that are behind it, especially folks like myself, are in it to see a good, honest, fair election. So go ahead, sign up. Go to your local elections board and sign up to be a poll worker, a poll manager, a poll dancer if you want.
Well, you know, we don't discriminate.
Sometimes I dance while I'm working the polls.
Oh, dear God.
Don't let that give you nightmares.
Look, I just said we don't discriminate. November 13th, y'all, Charleston Pride Festival will be out there. We are looking for volunteers to help us with setup, and
set up and tear down. Yep,
all of that.
Festival.
We
and
need help
hand out
with all
brochures to folks. Let us know if you're interested in Pride.
Absolutely. So, and then follow us on Instagram at SCNormal. You can follow me at Vaughn Postema. All right, let's have a good time out there. Make sure that you follow us. Check us out. We're here every Wednesday. Next Wednesday actually is is something a little bit different, Scott. Right? It's the second. I was about to say second Sunday. Multiple Scotts.
Can you get enough of me?
It's trippy, man. It's trippy, man. Multiple Scotts. The multiverse Scott. Next Wednesday. Me and Scott work full-time jobs, and the rest of our team does too. So, you know, if at the end we're a little wavy
Slap
at the end, it's because we're working hard. But yeah, we have every second Wednesday, we have our general body. Yeah.
Yep, we will do our general public meeting. So I'll kind of take the lead on that. We will do what we normally do at our second Wednesday meetings, our public meetings, and that is do a rundown of what's going on federal level, do a rundown of what's going on state level, and then talk about a little bit about chapter business, and also DJ Scott, multiple Scott, and also always reiterate our upcoming events. So that's it for next week. It'll be a general public meeting talking about an overall view of what's going on in politics.
Yeah.
We're hoping you join us, at least to keep me in line. And then, of course, the following week, we'll go back taking Vaughn's lead and having her cover whatever's hot in the subject that week.
Whatever's hot and high. Shout out to Skeptic. Wish I wasn't 3 hours away, Max, but we appreciate you checking in. Like it's awesome. And Joey enjoyed the show. Once again, Joey, thank you so much for coming through. Anya, all of the Hemp Lord. Thank you, everyone that continues to support us. We appreciate y'all. Everything that we're doing is for y'all and for the betterment of reforming these marijuana laws. So thank you so much. We appreciate you, Scott. And take us out.
I was going to say, last thing, I was thinking about this before we even started. I still have signs. We have, I think, 5 basic variations. Patients are not criminals. Decriminalize and save lives. I use cannabis and I vote. It's a plant, not a crime. And yes, we cannabis legalize. So when you come out to any of our events, be ready to grab a sign or two and take them on home and display them in your own communities.
Facts. Beautiful. And with that being said, thank you so much for another wonderful Wednesday night. Stay happy, y'all. VP and Scott, SC Normal, we out.
Night off. Bye now.